Most books on Christianity and politics are American, and they have a parochially American focus. I mean, they tend to focus on three things: Trump, Christian nationalism, and Roe v. Wade. Now, I understand that for our American friends, that's kind of the issues in your face, and you've got to deal with them. But when it comes to thinking about Christianity and politics or church and state relationships, there's so much more we need to consider. I think there's several things we need to consider. First, what is the state for? If government is a gift from God to save us from anarchy, then what is the gift of government actually for? Is the state purely for administrating justice, running the judicial system? Or is the state for creating this huge apparatus that organizes and regulates every aspect of our lives? What's a Christian view on the purpose of the state? Second, what type of government should Christians support? Should they support a absolute monarchy, a constitutional monarchy, where the king reigns but does not actually rule? Maybe an aristocratic-led republic? I mean, Calvin seemed to be a fan of that one. What about a democratic republic, or a dictatorship, or even a theocracy, ruled by a bunch of Anglican priests? Is there any one type of government that is more Christian than others? Third, we've also got to think historically about church and state relationships. It's quite interesting, informative to consider how the history of the church has operated with different types of governments across the world. I mean, how did the church relate to the Roman Empire before and after Constantine, or the church in the Byzantine Empire, or the church during medieval and modern Europe, or the church in its relationship to the British Empire, the Spanish Empire, the state and fate of Christians under Muslims, under communisms? There's so many things that we've got to learn from here. Fourth, how do Christians address the big social issues of their day? That can be, topics as difficult as immigration, defense policy, the environment, the justice system. What makes for a Christian view on these matters, and is there more than one acceptable Christian view on these topics? Fifth, we've also got to consider the state of Christians in other parts of the world. Think of Christians in Nigeria, where the biggest issue there is not Roe v. Wade, it's, Islamic insurgents up in the north. Or think of, Pentecostals in Palestine, or Baptists in Lebanon, or Anglicans in Israel. How did those three different Christian groups in different parts of the Middle East think about and relate to their own very difficult and trying conflict? Or there's the state of Christians in Ukraine. How should they act in their current circumstances? Or those in Taiwan who've got to think about what would they do as individuals, as churches, if China invades, or Christians in Myanmar who live under a military dictatorship. How do you make sense of these different situations around the world, and what are Christians in those situations really obligated to do on the basis of their discipleship? So you can see outside of America, there's a lot of big issues Christians in other parts of the world are facing. Six, you've also got the spiritual horizon we need to consider too. How do worldly powers, how do they manifest themselves in our current world? I mean, how does the political order manifest the darkness of this present evil age? Or to use the language of Revelation, how does the war in heaven manifest itself in the turmoil we face on the earth? We think there is a spiritual quality even to our secular political affairs, and that's something Christians need to be aware of. And it's largely because of these 6 areas, these 6 issues, that Tom Wright and I have cooperated to write the book, Jesus and the Powers: Christian Political Witness in an Age of Ascending Autocracies and Dysfunctional Democracies. And we're writing that because we want to talk about Christianity and politics, but beyond the parochialities and the partisanship of the American context. And let me say, look, let me acknowledge, we are very interested in the US context, not the least because of what happens in America affects the rest of the world. But we want to cast our gaze far broader. We want to examine the relationship between Christians to political power, but do that in a way that's, biblically informed, conscious of our history, and has got a very deep and deliberate global perspective. We want to make people aware too that our battles are not just against bad government or tyrannical government, but against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. This is a book that you would want to read if you're interested in the question of how to speak truth to power as a Christian. But it's also for people who want to wrestle with the question, what do you do when the powers listen and when they ask Christians or churches to help build a better society? What do you do then? If you're interested in those types of questions, then this is definitely a book for you. So follow the link, pre-order. If you pre-order through the Zondervan page, there are a bunch of bonus materials you can get access on. So yeah, thanks for listening. I'm Mike Bird, and I hope if you get around to it, you get a copy of the book, Jesus and the Powers.